What Hetrick-Martin has done is we really pride ourselves in being the nation's oldest and largest LGBTQ youth service organization.
It is the original organization that had the concept of supporting LGBT youth.
It was 1979 when the first incarnation of the Hetrick-Martin Institute opened.
This was right while Anita Bryant was still carrying on all over the United States, trying to get protection legislation reversed and being very successful in a lot of places. And so the notion that not only should gay people be around kids, but they were the most appropriate people to be supporting youth was completely radical.
30 years ago, to even consider same-sex adults mentoring youth, the taboo that brought about, and to know that and to do it anyway.
It was controversial, but those of us who at the time were not only professionals, but we were activists. We were not going to let anybody stop us. When I got there and got to the meetings, we had big discussions about what we needed to do.
In the very beginning, it was purely advocacy. It was consulting and reference, and there's still that component. As Damian Martin says in a video interview that I dug up,
whatever they need, we find. If we can't offer it, we find it for them.
That Hetrick-Martin is and always has been dedicated to finding the right resources.
The first person that came in was a young lesbian, and after that, it didn't even take a year before we had like 500 young people coming in. They were basically kids who really didn't have a place to live and would not go back to school. They were school phobic, for lack of a better word, but their phobia was real because there was harassment, getting violence, a lot of bullying, and so there's no way you could learn in that kind of an environment. So we had an after-school program, we had a counseling program, and that was basically it. And of course, we got telephone calls. A lot of the young people referred to us, and the diagnosis was clinical depression. It really wasn't. There was some kid who was extremely lonely. It was situational. And when they got to meet their peers, and kids like themselves, it was very different. They were cured in a month. First of all, they were never sick to be cured. They just needed to be around people like themselves and be able to talk about their troubles, which they found in group that a lot of them had the same issues.
By the time I was coming here, I had already been kicked out of my parents' house. And I was living with some friends, and I didn't know what to do, so I was coming here for everything. Everybody that I started coming here with, all the other young members were in similar situations. At the time we had, and especially because it was summer, there were a lot of people who were running away, and there were a lot of people who were couch surfing, and in between, there were a lot of young people that were on the street.
I think that the young people at Hetrick-Martin come here day after day because of the integrity of the programs and the knowledge, the security of knowing that they are accepted unconditionally, with love, with an educated staff who understand them, who get them, who don't judge them.
Hetrick-Martin these days is both an anchor and a leader.
It's one of the few groups out there that really in a comprehensive way is addressing the challenges that LGBT young people face.
Youth are coming out younger and younger, and society's not prepared for young men and women to come out at the age of 14, 15, 16 years old. I think that just now society is starting to, at the age of 18 to 22, accepting it, but the support system isn't there for anyone younger than that.
The frontal lobe isn't developed in a brain, the human mind, until we're 21 or 23 years of age. So when a 14-year-old looks at us and says, "No, I wasn't thinking," there's some truth in that they weren't thinking. And so it means as a community, though, that we need to be on our game. And it means teachers and guidance counselors and service administrators and after-school workers and principals, moms and dads. We really need to get educated quickly.
They come from cultures, families of origin and backgrounds where homosexuality or any other gender orientation or identity is quite taboo.
Roughly 30% of all young people coming out this year will be evicted from their homes, may not have the luxury of being connected to their biological parents or family.
I was at my home in Staten Island. I was with my, ultra-religious parents in a pretty conservative neighborhood, and I was beginning to feel like the pressure.
When I came to HMI, it was the first time where I felt like I could just be who I was and not have to worry about sort of like what my parents were going to think, what my family and my cousins were going to think.
I remember sitting in front of a room full of, they're called child evaluation specialists, and they told my mom and me that our problems were not that serious and that I wasn't being physically abused and I wasn't being neglected, so there was no reason to put me in care, and they told me to go home and work it out, you know, which was crazy. I wasn't, I mean, you know, and I don't, it's sort of, people don't take mental and emotional abuse very seriously. I was not allowed to go any place unescorted when I was 17 years old. I was not allowed to go, you know, hang out with friends or talk to anybody on the phone without being monitored. My parents started locking their bedroom door like I was going to steal stuff from them. They treated me like I was a criminal. I was not allowed to, you know, hug or kiss my brothers and sisters. I was not invited to my sister's, you know, one of her I believe it was her kindergarten graduation party, and I was not allowed to go. You know, I was effectively literally being cut out of my family's life, and I had to go back and live with that.
When we talk about safety at Hetrick-Martin Institute, we mean safety of mind, of body, of spirit. So it's physical safety, it's emotional safety, it's even the environmental design. So the very colors we use on the walls to the images that are self-affirming. Are there positive images in the hallways and classrooms and in the after-school support center that we provide? We find that with the over 1,500 young people that walk through our doors each year from over 200 zip codes and 4 different states, there is a pervasive lack or feeling of the lack of safety from the communities that they are coming from. And so it's incredibly important in everything that we do that the message of safety is pervasive. So from the moment they walk off our elevators, it should feel like they're being hugged.
I remember getting off the elevator and being greeted by some of the staff members with a big smile. Hey, how you doing? It almost felt like they were so friendly and so welcoming that it felt like this big chip on my shoulder from like having to like walk through the streets in a leather jacket, tough. Like I could just let that all melt and like be here and like laugh and be with my friends and be a 16-year-old.
So we do that through an array of mental health services.
A lot of people, when you say at 17 years old, we want you to sit in counseling or we want you to do this, to a 17-year-old, it's like, I'm not crazy, you know? But it very much was not about that. You know, I developed an appreciation for therapy.
What I needed was love, support, an understanding that no matter who I was, you know, like, I'd be accepted. And the staff members, like, gave me that.
Our students make it because of the team that's here, helping them make it.
It's more than a job. It's a dedication to a mission for which the entire staff is in line with.
Even when they're angry and they don't want to listen, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to, they'll know that I'll still be here. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here with a smile for you tomorrow.
Lillian was always going to be the person that we could come back to.
They have a group of adults that believe in them, which they haven't experienced a lot.
Because all they need at the end of the day is someone saying, yes, you can. And we're going to love you until you learn how to love yourself.
I'm needed here, or we're needed here. And it's all about that.
No matter how rough it gets, no matter how sad I get for the young people sometimes, I'm like, you know what? I still have all this love. And I still have all this support and all this encouragement I could give them because I got it. And I know that they need it because I got it, and I needed it when I was 16.
The need for such a school, for such a population, where the New York City and the New York State standards are all applicable in a safe environment.
Around 84, things started to, we realized that there was a lot of young people not going to school. They would come in at lunchtime, and I would ask them, you know, you're supposed to be in school, or you're supposed to have a job, one or the other, and they had neither. So I talked to some of my colleagues and to Damien, I said, they have a right to an education until they're 21. That's the law. So I think we should do something about it. And we did. That morning when the school opened, it was April 15th, I'll never forget it. When I finally got to the office, somebody called me up and said, did you read the paper today? The morning paper. I said, I just got out of the subway. I think it was Damien, and I got up and I grabbed the paper. It says, "Gay high school comes out of the closet." It's New York Post. The Times was a little better. And then we were getting all these invitations to talk to the media on different shows. And Damien went and fought the religious right. He knew the Bible better than me. Damien was threatened. I was threatened. They threatened my kids. Those were the kind of challenges we had, but we did a lot of, trying to go out in the public and to educate the public about that's why we did the TV shows. I did a lot of Donahue, and after a while, because even if you get 5 minutes to talk or 10 minutes to talk, you're talking to like millions of people.
That program went from the Harvey Milk School to, in 2003, the Harvey Milk High School, a diploma granting institution.
We provide a good quality education in a safe environment that's free of bigotry, that's free of violence, where all students can feel safe and empowered to pursue an education.
It was a vigorously challenging experience. The school was opened very, very quickly in the sense that the green light was given, I believe, perhaps around maybe May, thereabouts, but I don't think wheels really began rolling to get a staff and look for kids until July, August, and to open in September. We saw the challenge right away, but it was still exciting. I think probably the most interesting of all was that every day we would bound from the highest of emotion with exhilaration to sometimes extraordinary depression, because we would hear stories that would be and see behaviors that were so troubling and so disturbing. You know, the stories were so disturbing because it was so unfair.
And she was sitting there telling ACS why she wouldn't allow me to be queer in her home. That it was like having a son or daughter that was addicted to drugs and trying not to stop them. You know, I'd sit there and listen to my mother call me sick and all other manner of evils, like she didn't know me. You know, now prior to any of this, I was doing really, really well in school. I was an honor student. I participated in a lot of student activities. You know, I never said anything to or against my parents. I always got good grades. You know, I was really, really active in the religion. There was no, you know, no reason. It's not like I was stealing from them to support a habit.
One of the kids had a camera, and they wanted to take a picture of me and another student. And the student had said, you know, I don't like having my picture taken because I'm so ugly. And like, he's like a 15-year-old kid who's like been like actually physically threatened by his family members because he's gay. And I remember just looking at him and seeing myself like in his eyes, in the sense of, oh yeah, I know exactly that feeling that you're talking about. And I felt exactly the same way. And like just getting to share my experience with him in the sense of, I know exactly how you feel. And I've been there. And I promise you it will change.
And then something small would happen that we would just have the biggest rush with excitement because you saw change happen.
At the end of the day, I see lives changing for the better.
Being closed off and being rigid and watching them actually transform into these magnificent, independent thinking, gorgeous beings. I mean, that to me was one of the greatest gifts that I never knew that I always desired.
We reflect into them that potential that we see. We know they can do it.
When I look back at my life right now, I feel like HMI was my jumping off point. It was my jumping off point to so many of like my identities, so many of the roads that I've traveled.
Coming to Hetrick-Martin helped me feel less powerless, and it helped me feel less vulnerable, you know, which is I think what I needed at that time. It was what I needed to sort of push myself to finish high school, you know, and push myself to start working and, you know, doing stuff with myself.
So it was really through HMI that I started working.
The internships were an opportunity to turn a lot of the activism into advocacy, you know, because we were all activists because we were angry. You know, we were angry about the things that happened to us, and we were angry about the fact that we had to live through things as teenagers that we shouldn't have had to. And it's sort of the internships that we participated in here were sort of taking the activism and taking the anger, taking the frustration and what was ultimately behind that, all of the hurt, you know, and sort of mining our experiences and teaching us more about how to constructively and proactively deal with some of the issues that we had and the issues that we noticed in our own communities.
Setting up interviews so they can apply for internships, and sometimes they don't have suits, or they don't have ties, or they don't have work shirts, or they don't have skirts, you know, or even a toothbrush.
In a certain sense, the challenges are always the same. It's resources, and it's having more resources because you will never have enough support for all of the young people out there who need it.
There's so much that needs to be done one-on-one, but for corporations, it's important, I think, for the community to know that big corporations like Macy's, like Polo Ralph Lauren, like Levi's, like Citibank have, you know, the support as well. That, you know, it's a little organization with a minority, but supported by big companies means a lot. To New York and to the gay lesbian movement, it started 30 years ago, and the first ever gay lesbian after school, you know, youth supported program. And to me, it's just become a core of New York, and our how we reach out to the community is not just through the youth, but also through educational services. You know, whether it's, you know, through politics or, you know, police officers or, you know, educators. We have a huge reach in the community.
Their role really is that of a leader to set the standard for these services and to try to push other service providers and push us in government to do even more.
I see Hetrick-Martin Institute really embracing its responsibility on a social level, really on a worldwide level. We have a model that is 30 years tried and tested. It's been vetted, it's been evaluated, and now it's being replicated.
There's no one who does this as well as we do. We are the oldest, the largest, and the best, as far as I'm concerned, youth program for gay lesbian youth. So what I'd like to do is start to take this program to cities that don't offer services right now. Right now we're working closely with Newark.
It's been requested of us, or asked of us, to start Newark's first comprehensive LGBTQ after-school program. So we're hoping to launch that in September of this coming year.
And should this be successful, you know, how do we take this and take it to, you know, Topeka, or take it to Cleveland, you know, or take it to Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't have a program, so that's what we'd like to do.
I would love for this model to be out there in the world. I know it sounds like I'm a dreamer or something, but you got to have dreams and you have to have vision.
The Hetrick-Martin Institute over the next 3 decades will bring progress and greater equality and greater potential and greater access for LGBT.
I see young people who, against all odds, when society and statistics say they should not be succeeding, are doing so and flying in the face of that and becoming just amazing adults. It's incredibly exciting.
It's huge to know that a young person can come in here and walk out and still be welcome back, no matter where they are in their life. And I think that that's sort of like the sense of home that I hope that all the young people leave here with, that this is home.
When I look in a young person's eyes and I look right into them and I tell them that they have the same rights as every other young person, that education for them is not a privilege, that education for them is a right, that they have the right to love whom they choose to love, they have the right to explore in safety who and what they are, and to ask questions and to expect from educated, open-minded adults correct answers, I think Hetrick-Martin would be very proud of us today, I hope.
They would be very proud. We had no clue where we were going. But we had dreams about where we were going. You know, we wanted to this, and for me, I was very lucky. I met two wonderful guys that turned out to be like my mentors, my father, my brothers. You know, they meant all those things to me.
They really, to me, represent people who are willing to stand up and change the world for the better. And people who are willing to do that not only, you know, through direct advocacy, but also, like, institutionally. Like, they created this place so that there could be a change in the world.
They were change agents and critical leaders at a time in our history when young people needed them most.
Adult-adolescent relationships within the LGBT community sometimes are frowned upon, when what they were doing was really protecting the young people.
You know, I think the word protection, which was in the original name, is that the very core first thing is to make kids safe.
These are young people who should be giving up. These are young people where society is telling them that they are less than, that the message is they don't have the same rights, that when they grow up they can't marry and love the person they may have a heart and soul connection to, and yet they come anyway. And they come to receive services not because they're court mandated, not because their teachers or parents tell them so. They come because as a volunteer organization, they want to. So they navigate the most difficult, most extensive subway or mass transit system on the planet. They get here anyway. They show up on time, and they demand to receive services. And they do it with integrity and responsibly, and they show up day after day. And to me, that's incredibly heroic. I don't have to look very far to find heroes. I don't have to open up a textbook. They're right downstairs at 2 Astor Place.